Here's Bill Schmidt.
And we are live wrapping up week number 10. What is going on? What's good, America? This is Sports Map All Night. I'm Bill Schmidt, my guy Andrew Carlson alongside. Thanks for hanging out with us each and every weeknight, starting up at 10 on the East Coast. Our guy Coos is going to be here in the third hour of the program, wrapping up week number 10 as only Robbie Coos knows how to do it. Zach Rosenblatt going to stop by in the first hour of the program, talk about one of the most surprising teams in the National Football League this season. They finally got that elusive win that we've been waiting for. They finally got the elusive statement win. But how much of a statement can you be making when you beat a 3-win team? Well, Doug Peterson shows you how much of a statement the New York Giants made in about 20 minutes from right now. And Nuke Hopkins, goodness gracious. Could DeAndre Hopkins do anything wrong? Well, it helps when you got Kyler Murray throwing you the football. The Hail Murray, as a lot of people have coined it. The touchdown pass to win it yesterday in Arizona. We'll bring you the audio of one of the best calls I've heard from one of my favorite broadcasters, Dave Pasch, as you will hear the just amazement that we all were witnessing and feeling on our prospective couches watching DeAndre Hopkins haul in a game winner with 1 second remaining yesterday in Arizona, as well as the Houston sports fan. And Andrew, I don't mean to pick on you. I really don't, because you and I are really starting to hit a nice stride here doing this show together, right? We've been doing it for now about 2 full months. We're going to talk to Eric Williams, talk some Rams as well from Sports Illustrated tonight. But so DeAndre Hopkins, no. But now it appears that the whole entire Houston Rockets organization wants to go anywhere but Southern Texas. What is going on in Houston? Andrew Carlson's going to help us out during the second hour of the program, because none of us know. And apparently now James Harden wants to add himself to the list. Maybe it's one up in Russell Westbrook, but it appears that there's a little bit more on meat on that bone that we got to get into in the second hour of the program, as well as Drew Brees. How much longer are you going to put yourself through this? 5 broken ribs at least for Drew Brees. Hear it in his own words coming up. And the 3 plays that pay, the kids have been hot, handing out money like an ATM. Let's look into week number 10 right here on Sports Map All Night next. Studios. Bill Schmidt hanging out with you, my guy Andrew Carlson, alongside wrapping up week number 10 in the National Football League as we get to watch Kirk Cousins. It's tough to say do his thing on Monday Night Football, but he's kind of doing his thing on Monday Night Football. Kirk Cousins doing exactly what he does best on Monday Night Football, and that's a trail to a lesser team. However, it's 13-10 at the moment. Justin Jefferson just broke a long one right down the middle on a 3rd and 11. Kirk Cousins is hyped up. Everybody else on that team is hyped up. But the biggest play so far, Cordero Patterson, fresh out of the second half, takes the second half kickoff 108 yards to pay dirt, tying the NFL record on that touchdown, throws up the peace sign that everybody loves to see so much. And this has been as ugly of a game as you would have imagined it would have been between the Bears and Vikings. However, the 6 catches now for 114 after the long one. I think it was like 60-some yards that Jefferson just had on that play. This Bears defense has done a great job of bottling up Dalvin Cook here tonight. There has not been much room for Dalvin to move. And one of the best running backs in the league, Andrew, a guy that you and I both had as our Offensive Player of the Year when we did our midseason awards just last week, he has been contained, to say the least, but Akeem Hicks, Khalil Mack, and friends, to borrow a phrase from the Sports Map Radio Network.
Yeah, to me, it looks very much like they have keyed in entirely on saying, you know what, Kirk Cousins, if you want to try and beat us, go ahead. They're going to be spots in the secondary that are available. But Dalvin Cook is not going to be the guy that beats us tonight.
That was similar to the feel of the Green Bay Packers yesterday, that they were just going to not let the Jacksonville Jaguars were not going to let the running game beat them in Lambeau Field, 24-20. The Packers sneak out a win against the Jaguars. Jake Luton, your boy, all over the place. Had a nice day. Yeah, he's got a nice arm on him in weird, tough conditions there at Lambeau. He was as efficient as maybe you could be. Did end up having one interception on a bad ball that his receiver just flat out fell down in. But a sluggish 7-2 Green Bay team now atop the NFC after the Seattle Seahawks continue to slump. And I think the warts of that Seattle defense are finally starting to bubble up to the surface, and just how much they've put on Russell Wilson's shoulders in the last couple of weeks. It's finally rising to the surface as a legitimate concern. Russ, yesterday, for the first time all year, doesn't throw a touchdown pass, doesn't account for a touchdown either on his 8 runs for 60 yards as well yesterday, as they fall at SoFi to the Rams. That LA Rams team, the trade for Jalen Ramsey yesterday was exactly why you make that move. Did anyone see DK Metcalf? Was he on a milk carton with his 2 catches for 28 yards? There was nowhere for him to go. And you could tell how frustrated Metcalf was late in that ball game, that he couldn't get open, couldn't get off the coverage. And I think we're starting to learn a little bit more about the Rams than we did even about the Seahawks, now each sitting at 6-3. The Rams had a lot of wins against the NFC East. And you were wondering if indeed the losses for the Rams were maybe speaking a little bit louder than the wins. Look at that defense and realize what we're working with here in Los Angeles. Probably the best or second best pass rusher in the entire league in Aaron Donald. The most dominant defensive player in the league right now. And then add in Jalen Ramsey, who, while he's not squawking anymore in Jacksonville, maybe we've all forgotten about just how great he is. Maybe a top 2 or 3, I'll give you 5 just for the sake of the argument. 2 top 5 players at the 2 most important positions on the defensive side of the football. Whatever you're going to put together on the offense with Sean McVay and the mastermind that he has there in Los Angeles, they're going to put up enough points to be competitive. But being able to withstand the offensive surges of those groups out there in the NFC West, they've built it to combat what you have out in that division. Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, insert Chris Carson whenever he's healthy. That team's about putting up points. Same thing in Arizona. And did they put up the points when necessary yesterday? A little bit more on that as we keep going. But Arizona's leading that division right now, as there's a logjam at 6-3 with the Rams, Seahawks, and Cards. And while the other teams are built on offense, and San Francisco, similarly, that's a hard-nosed, physical, run the football kind of team. Built much more like the Rams, just absolutely massacred by injuries so far this year. The two defensive teams and the two teams that are going to win on defense showcased yesterday and showed out. Rams sacked Wilson 6 times yesterday, and we're all over Russ. Pretty much the last 4 weeks, we've seen a complete shift in the MVP conversation, as for the first 6 or 7 weeks, you were looked at cross-eyed if you even thought somebody else would end up having the MVP at the end of the day outside of Russell Wilson. Now, it's maybe a little bit more surprising if you do think Russ wins it. What about the New Orleans Saints in that afternoon window? Beat up on the 49ers, but early in that game, it was 10-0 Niners to Nick Mullins and Brandon Ayuk, and that was about it. Looks like we're going to have the extended Jameis Winston run that I don't know if anybody really was hoping for, begging for, wanted to see, but now we're going to get it. Because Drew Brees, we'll tell you a little bit later on in the program, 5 different broken ribs, allegedly. 3 on one side, 2 new suffered yesterday, along with a collapsed lung. In any season that keeps you out, you have to imagine for a month. But what kind of difference does it mean in a COVID-19 pandemic type season where respiratory issues and illnesses are top of mind? You got to imagine that plays into it as well. Sunday Night Football last night, the Baltimore Ravens might be the most puzzling team in all of football in finding out and thinking and hoping to learn an answer to what has gone on and what is different with Lamar Jackson. Puts up the 300 total yards that you would love to have and you would maybe have come to expect from Lamar. But in a sloppy, soaked atmosphere there in Foxborough, one of the players and one of the mobile quarterbacks was able to do something with it, take advantage. It wasn't the 2019 MVP. It was the 2015 MVP. Cam Newton, we may have buried him in New England a little bit too early. Wasn't tremendous, but made plays when he had to. The trick play ends up being the difference, and New England tops Baltimore in a big-time question as to what we see out in the AFC East. Because the lead is indeed Kyler Murray's touchdown to DeAndre Hopkins. But the Buffalo Bills lose, and they go to 7-3 following their loss out in the desert. But now it's 6-3 and 3-0 for Tua Tagovailoa as they just take care of business in Miami. 1 year ago to the day yesterday, Tua gets carted off in Starkville, Mississippi as a member of the Alabama Crimson Tide. And some people didn't know if he was going to be able to really, you believed he would be playing football again at some point. But as the number 5 overall pick, and now the starter in Miami, 3 games in, he's 3-0. The numbers aren't spectacular. Numbers-wise, Justin Herbert tops him yesterday. But stats can only tell you so much of the story. The efficiency you're seeing out of Tua, taking what's given to him. It's been really impressive to watch him so far in Miami. And watching again yesterday, he's answering as many of the doubters as you could possibly think. Talk about answering the critics. What about doubling up the Carolina Panthers on the road? That's exactly what Tampa Bay did yesterday. First team, I was reading a stat earlier today. They're the first team ever to win a game by 23 after losing their previous game by 25 or more. Now, that's how you respond on the road. And for all the questions that were arising after Tampa Bay sits on the tarmac and sits at the airport trying to get into Charlotte till about 11 o'clock. They don't get into the team hotel until maybe 12:30, 1 o'clock. Didn't matter. Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady must have just been sitting at a bus stop or sitting right on the tarmac themselves. Game planning, strategizing, because that offense looked legit again yesterday. Defense still has some holes, but there is skilled as you're going to find. The Las Vegas Raiders, talk about skill and taking care of business. Our guy Raider Cody, Andrew, must have been absolutely just tickled pink yesterday. 37-12 all over Denver. Sure, it's a 3-win team, but Vegas making another statement, claiming and stating their flag in the ground as a playoff team out here in 2020. There were a lot of big-time storylines, and we didn't even get into the Texans and Browns underfest. And Nick Chubb, well, I don't even want to get into Nick Chubb for getting the over. Just stepping out at the 1-yard line. Nick Chubb, you've been out for 6 weeks. You're going to tell me you didn't want to score that last touchdown? I digress. My money doesn't matter to anybody else's bank account, but you can only imagine. We were the only people that were a little bit ticked off with the Nick Chubb step out. I know it's the right play. It's the smart play. That doesn't pay me, though. However, luckily, Browns covering the 4 wasn't a part of the 3 plays that pay, because goodness gracious, are your boys cashing out here on Sports Map all night. We'll get into that in the third hour of the program. Zach Rosenblatt's going to talk about these New York Giants. 27-17 winners over Philadelphia yesterday. We've been waiting for New York to be able to take that proverbial next step and lock themselves officially into the NFC East race. Yesterday, they did as much as humanly possible to be able to put that statement out there. Now, the Giants roll into their bye week into week 11, 3-7, right? No one's bringing up the coach of the year candidacy for Joe Judge. I get that. They got 6 games to go. But when Zach Rosenblatt stops by, we got to ask him what they need to do to win this NFC East, because you just might be able to steal it at like 6-10, which would be outrageous to see. And it's the reason why Doug Peterson, we got to bring you this from the Angelo Catalgi show a little bit earlier today on WIP. If you think that one man is fed up, listen to Doug Peterson next and tell me that this is not a man at his wit's end. And whether or not it's the quarterback, which was clear, under 60% of his throws Carson Wentz is completing yesterday, whether it's the defense who just couldn't get a huge stop on third down, or frankly, you point the finger at yourself, because when your team's 0-9 on third down and one of the worst teams in the league on third down efficiency, at some point that conversation has to point back. So listen to Doug Peterson and tell me that you don't hear a coach that is at his complete wit's end and has no answers at this point. Tell us something good as well at 1-800-224-2004 when you hop inside those O'Reilly Auto Parts studios. Andrew Carlson, Bill Schmid coming at you right here on Sports Map Radio. This is Sports Map All Night.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Bill Schmidt.
We're back on Sports Map all night. I'm Bill Schmidt. My guy Andrew Carlson alongside. We're going to hear from Doug Peterson momentarily on WIP's morning show with Angelo Cataldi, an absolute icon, a legend in our industry. One of my favorites because the dude just wears his absolute heart on his sleeve. And when you listen to myself and Andrew here on Sports Map all night, you know I'm a Green Bay Packer fan. Andrew's a Houston sports fan. So the second hour of the program, when we talk about what on earth is going on with your favorite basketball team, Andrew, we wear a heart on our sleeve, right? Just like Doug Peterson does here as well. And that's no cap, right? That I use that right, Andrew?
We're going to work on it, Bill.
Okay. Sorry.
We're going to work on it.
Man, I might be the most boomer 26-year-old you'll ever see in your entire life. Guys, we're inside the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. Need replacement parts and tools for your repair, maintenance, or restoration project? O'Reilly Auto Parts has you covered. Trust the friendly, knowledgeable parts professionals at O'Reilly Auto Parts. They know what it takes to get the job done right the first time. In fact, professional technicians have counted on O'Reilly Auto Parts for years. Stop by and talk to one of the professional parts people today at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. 1-800-224-2004 if you want to join the conversation as well here on Sports Map Radio. There's so much that gets talked about and bantered through, especially when you're in a major market like Philadelphia, right? No one has ever accused Eagles fans of being necessarily level-headed. No one's ever accused Philadelphia sports fans of checking out on a season. I mean, they're as juiced up if their team, if their Phillies are 60-100, or if their Eagles are right now, 3-5-1. There's a possibility that Philadelphia still wins this division. They're still in first place, but yesterday's loss to New York just once again magnified all the issues that we've watched each and every week with this Philadelphia team, right? Carson Wentz not even completing 60% of his passes. The team ended up only having 22 first downs. They get outgained by the Giants, turn the ball over. They don't throw any picks, which has been a strange oddity for these teams throughout the year. And throughout all of this, the biggest issue is staying on the field and prolonging drives, continuing drives. Eagles were 0 of 9 on third down yesterday. And their defense doing enough. 5 of 14, they got New York off of the football field. They did their work. Held Daniel Jones somewhat in check outside of a long 34-yard touchdown run that he had. And despite all of that, they're 3-5-1, as underwhelming and underperforming of any team in the National Football League so far. And that's why Doug Peterson, admittedly so this morning, on his weekly hit on the Eagles flagship, by the way, so he has to do this each and every week, admits that Doug Peterson was a little pissed off this morning. Take a listen.
You hang up now? No, please don't. I'm feeling my obligation right now. If I hang up, I feel my obligation.
Doug, I fully understand.
I'm pissed off, Angelo.
All right, what about Doug?
I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off at myself. I'm pissed off at the way we played. And it's just, it frustrates me. It frustrates me to no end. And, we have too much pride. And I have too much pride. These players have too much pride. We work our ass off during the week. And, it's frustrating. It is frustrating. And, blame it on me all you want. I'll handle it with the players. You can blame it on me. I'm a big guy. I can handle it. That's fine. But this is, we're self-inflicting ourselves. We are killing ourselves. We're shooting ourselves in the foot. All those cliche little, statements is still showing up, and it's frustrating.
Doug, now that you've looked at the tape, what's your best explanation for what happened yesterday?
I look at a lot of different things. I look at, number one, I look at 11 penalties. Let's just start there. Let's start with 11 penalties. Whether we agree with them or not, there's 11 penalties. Let's start with 0 for 9 on 3rd down. Let's look at that. Right? Those are penalties are discipline things. 3rd down are execution things. Also play calling things. I look at this tape today, exactly what jumps off at the screen. Exactly what jumps out. And you know, I'm not going to sit here and make excuses and say we've got young players. No, that's over with. We're 10 weeks into this thing. There's no more. We all have to do our jobs, and we all have to do it better. I have to coach better. We have to play better. Bottom line.
Doug, I've had the opportunity to talk to you for a long time, and I really consider it a privilege. This is the most frustrated I've ever heard you. Is it the most frustrated you've ever been as Eagles coach?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
That's Doug Peterson, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles this morning. A full day to soak in, allow, and chew on a 27-20 loss. 27-17 loss to their division rival, New York Giants. And if you were wondering, the rest of the interview did not go very well either. Angelo Cataldo, a pro on WIP, bringing that as well. He is right there. It sounded like Jerry calling from Chesterbrook, Pennsylvania. Angelo, I'm pissed off. Didn't he sound like a caller? He didn't sound like the head coach of the football team, but he's exactly right. At some point, you got to pay the piper, right? At some point, the results have to match the effort getting brought in. And I'm not saying the Philadelphia Eagles are devoid of talent, because I look in that backfield, you see two guys that I think a lot of teams would love to have on their teams. Miles Sanders can play. Now, can he stay healthy? That's still to be determined. I think Boston Scott's a player. They get him a couple of touches, breaks off a 50-yarder yesterday. When he's been the guy, he's been good. Now, their wide receiving health is the issue, but their defense can play. At some point, their quarterback is going to have to match that. And right there, Doug Peterson does exactly what you would expect a really good NFL head coach to do. You're not throwing anybody under the bus, but you are sending a stern warning that what we put out there is not going to be good enough. And before he gets fired, they're going to start firing coaches, or they're going to start firing players. And that's usually how it goes down. But let's give some credit to the New York Giants on the other side. Zach Rosenblatt's going to tell you how it happened yesterday next on Sports Map All Night.
Rocket Mortgage.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Bill Schmidt.
We're back here on Sports Map Radio. This hour of Sports Map Radio been brought to you by Rocket Mortgage. When you need to know what it takes for a home loan to fit your budget and your family, Rocket can. Now, I don't claim to be an offensive coordinator. I don't never called plays in the National Football League. But what the hell was that? 3rd and 5. What was a ball on like the 32, Andrew? And Bill Lazor, newly minted as the play caller for the Chicago Bears, decides to throw a screen out to Allen Robinson like 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Stunningly, it doesn't work. So then it's like 4th and 10. And actually, play works out to perfection. They split the cover 2 and just tried dumping one right over into Anthony Miller's hands, and it's 6 inches out. But it's 19-13, and now the Vikings just picked up a first down, so this thing is about as over as it can be. The Bears, if they get the football back, will get it with about 6.5 seconds left, so it looks like Kirk Cousins going to win for the first time on Monday night, and he is absolutely hyped. Headbutting tight ends and everything. But just in respect to what you are calling as an offensive coordinator, when you can run a jet sweep, is the need for the tunnel screen still there as much as these Chicago Bears run it? And if you're going to run a screen to a wide receiver, would you really run it to the guy that's a possession dude? Get the ball downfield if you're going to throw it to Allen Robinson. Let him go and get to at least the first down marker. Wow. And when your team can't block, this is newsflash. It doesn't help when you make the offensive lineman run 6 yards to go and make a block. If they can't block the dude in front of them, usually it doesn't help when you're trying to block somebody much quicker and smaller than you in a linebacker or defensive back. Just from experience. That usually doesn't help very much. Wow. So now the Bears can maybe get the football back here. Possibly get it back if they burn all 3 of their timeouts. They're still talking crap, though. You got to give the Bears defense that. They talk as much stuff as just about any team in the National Football League. And they're about to lose 4 straight games. This also might be the exact outcome that Matt Nagy was hoping for when he turns over play calling duties. All right, I promise we're going to talk Houston Rockets. It's about 10 minutes away. Keep it right here. This is Sports Map Radio. Andrew Carlson, Bill Schmidt hanging out with you on Sports Map all night.
Bill Schmidt.
Thanks for hanging out. Hour number 2 of Sports Map all night here on a Monday as we wrap up week number 10 in the National Football League. Nick Foles now down on the field, 37 seconds to go. Vikings don't score. They gain just enough yardage with Dalvin Cook to throw a dagger through my guy Andrew Carlson's fantasy team. Sorry about that, Andrew, but don't worry. This is coming from the guy that started Zach Moss over Ronald Jones. So misery breeds company. You got company here on this show tonight, buddy. Don't worry. I'm just looking out for you. Also, there's a situation that is continuing to bubble up. And last night, it percolated up to the surface in questions as to what is wrong with the Baltimore Ravens. And most importantly, what's wrong with the reigning defending MVP of the league in Lamar Jackson. Last week, we had the quotes coming off on the Rich Eisen show that garnered a lot of attention that I didn't necessarily understand. The thought that defenses are calling their plays out and a fear that, well, I don't know why our plays are being known, and maybe the coaching staff needs to change around the play calling. Maybe that's the issue. I line that up mostly to newsflash, dudes watch film in the National Football League. You know, for the most part, what's coming if you watch enough film in the National Football League. And guys watch film in the National Football League. It's going to happen. However, last night in a rain-soaked, absolutely awful condition to play football, Foxborough, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens can't get it done against a 3-5, now 4-5 New England Patriots team. Cam Newton looks a lot better last night, throwing the ball with some more zip. Lamar, once again, can't come back. They still have not come back from 10 down since he's been the starter. However, I'm still going to side with that Baltimore is going to be there when we get to January football. Now, the attention's going to have to shift if you're the Baltimore Ravens to a wild card spot, because we have been pointing to that Thanksgiving night game against Pittsburgh. That might be out the door. Nick Foles getting carted off, a bad scene in Chicago. But is as bad as what's going on with the Houston Rockets. Everyone wants out. You want to stay right here on Sports Map Radio.
trading him away in his prime.
I love the way you said it, and we're going to come back exactly with that. If you're the NBA and you're the organization, if you're the Houston Rockets, you got the willpower to tell James Harden to, for lack of a better term, mind your own business, get out of my office, all the proverbial quotes that you could say, kick rocks, which I think is the best way to say it, or do you give in like everybody else in the NBA has done? And is there really anywhere else that you can go from here? I got a little bit of a package that maybe Brooklyn can wow Andrew next and change his mind, but also 1-800-224-2004. Should the Houston Rockets do exactly what Andrew Carlson just said? Tell James Harden to kick rocks, or as everybody else in the NBA does, fall in line with the star. It's Sports Map all night. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the program. It's Sports Map all night. Andrew Carlson hanging out with me. I'm Bill Schmidt. Thanks for being here. We're inside the O'Reilly Auto Parts studios. Are your wiper blades chattering, skipping, or squeaking? Don't compromise your visibility with streaks or smearing on your windows. When it's time to replace your wiper blades, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and see their selection. The professional parts people will help you find just the right wiper blades for your vehicle at O'Reilly Auto Parts. They'll install your wiper blades free of charge. That's the best part about this whole thing, guys. And O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day, and better people. as well. 1-800-224-2004. You're the Houston Rockets brain trust. What do you do with James Harden? As we got on the air tonight, it was reported. Now, earlier in the day, it was reported by Adrian Wojnarowski that everybody in Houston essentially wants out. We knew Russell Westbrook was unhappy, that he was ready to move on. He had requested that they find a suitor for him to go, and right now it doesn't seem like anybody wants it. The report that I heard earlier today was they still want to possibly send him to Charlotte, and Michael Jordan and folks are interested. However, they don't want to give up their top 5 pick for Russell Westbrook. Duh. Like, there's no reason why you'd possibly imagine trading a top 5 pick for where he is at this point in his career. But James Harden, whether you like the way he plays or not, whether you say he doesn't play defense enough or not, he is the most dynamic scorer that I watch in the NBA night in and night out. He's a top 5 player in the NBA. I think anybody you talk to, consensus top 5 to 7 player in the NBA, bar none. He's been in the top 5 of the MVP balloting for each of the last 4 years. He's won it in that time frame. He is a star, a superstar, and a star amongst superstars in this league. However, looking at it on the surface and then trying to dig into it a little bit more as to how you would even imagine working a deal between the Brooklyn Nets, who right now are sitting with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, each making over $30 million. They're going to have to push for the 31-year-old, if that's the way they go, with a multitude of first-round picks. And Zach Lowe kind of brought up an idea of how it could look. And, I mean, it would take just about everything for Harden's salary to match what the Nets could give you without obviously giving up one of the 2 superstars, one of the main reason why he wants to be in Brooklyn. So just look at a possible deal of Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, Spencer Dinwiddie, the 19th overall pick this year, the 2022 and 2024 first-round picks with a little to no protection, pick swaps in each of those 2. So essentially, you control what the Nets can have for the next 4 years, Andrew. Is that enticing to you at all to push James Harden and go off of your stance on the other side of the break, which I thought was great, where you have him for 3 years at $133 million. You just offered the cat 2 years at $103 million to make him the first $50 million a year player. You said, for a lack of a better term, I might tell him to kick rocks. Is that enough for you to budge and give in to the demand?
As long as it includes draft picks, like we talked about off the air, past 2025. 2025 is the year where KD, Kyrie, and potentially James Harden, if he was on the Nets, would be off the books for the team. If you're including draft picks past that date where the uncertainty is we don't know what the hell the Brooklyn Nets are going to look like, if you want to include those, then we can start talking about James Harden. But the first-round picks, well, all 3 of those guys are on the team, mean legitimately nothing to me, and I'm pretty sure they mean legitimately nothing to the organization. Because unless everything just goes absolutely just beyond not according to plan for the Brooklyn Nets, those picks are going to be in the 30, 28, 29 range. It won't matter. And Bill, we've just had a couple of bombs drop in the last 5 minutes. The Rockets actually just made a trade to send Robert Covington to the Portland Trailblazers for a 2020 pick in the first round this year, 2021 first round pick next year, in addition to Trevor Ariza. And the Milwaukee Bucks have just acquired Jrue Holiday.
Let's go! Let's go! Finally. Shams on the Milwaukee trade with Jrue Holiday. They are sending Eric Bledsoe and George Hill along with draft compensation to New Orleans. Big fan of George Hill. Eric Bledsoe's defense is as good as they could possibly be. But as disrespectful as it might be to certain guys, wow. Now the Bucks have somebody that can actually pound the ball into the floor, make a move, make a shot, and set up Chris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo in the front court. Okay, now we're talking. Okay, wow, that feels good. That feels good. Folks in Milwaukee were not very happy with the pace of the Milwaukee Bucks. They were very frustrated that the Dennis Schroeder move was not made by the Milwaukee Bucks. Drew Holiday was someone that a lot of people were interested in. And that move is now being made to the Milwaukee Bucks. Andrew, one of my favorite Drew Holiday memories, and a lot of people don't say that. And that's a strange thing to think of. So back when I was a floor mopper for the Milwaukee Bucks, back in my younger days, back in my high school days, Drew Holiday was playing with the Philadelphia 76ers at that time, right? And you hear a lot of things when you're courtside at an NBA game. And one of which was I'm sitting underneath the basket, with my mop, waiting for somebody to go and hit the deck. Drew Holiday had just scored on like 4 straight possessions for a bad 76ers team going up against a bad Milwaukee Bucks team. I think Charlie Bell was one of their best players. But he goes to the rim, gets an and one, and some dude goes, "Hey, Holiday, you suck." And he just looks back at him and goes, "Hey, thanks, bro. Thanks for buying a ticket to watch me, bro."
20.
Okay. Well, now those folks are going to be watching and paying tickets to watch Drew Holiday as a Milwaukee Buck. Trevor Ariza, also a part of that deal. Ooh, okay. We're going to chew on this and talk to our boy Eric Williams, covers the Rams for Sports Illustrated next. Get back to the NFL on Sports Map All Night next.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Bill Schmidt.
Welcome back to the program at Sports Map All Night. A couple of trades just coming down in the NBA to update you on. First, Adrian Wojnarowski was first on the scene. Rockets are finalizing a trade to send Robert Covington to the Portland Trailblazers in exchange for Trevor Ariza and a 2020 first-round pick and a 2021 protected first-round pick. That first-round pick is the 16th overall pick in Wednesday's draft. Another future first-round pick. Deal can't be finalized until after Wednesday's draft because it involves compensation there. Also, Woj reporting that New Orleans is near completing a deal to send guard Drew Holiday to Milwaukee for Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, and what is described as significant draft compensation. Teams are still working through picks in the trade, but that appears to be as done as it could be right here. So let's talk some NFL. Here coming up from Sports Illustrated, covering the LA Rams. He is Eric Williams. Joining us on the Progressive Hotline. Progressive making it easy. Bundle your home and car insurance. Get a quote online at progressive.com today. Eric, Bill Schmidt, thanks for hanging out with us tonight, talking some Rams after a win yesterday against the Seattle Seahawks and Russell Wilson.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Eric, I was watching that game yesterday, and immediately the first thing that I was drawn to, not 99, not Leonard Floyd getting 3 sacks, just being all over Russell Wilson, but 2 catches for 28 yards on DK Metcalf. That Jalen Ramsey trade, folks are starting to realize, yeah, he is pretty good, and we may have forgotten just how great he is on the outside.
Yeah, Jalen's a beast. It's been fun to watch him. Not only in games, but just every day in practice and kind of how he goes about his business. I was fortunate enough to cover the Seahawks my first 7 years in covering the league. And so I got to watch Richard Sherman on a daily basis. And, they're similar, except for I think Jalen's probably a better athlete than Richard is. They're both very confident players. And you see that from Jalen when he's on the field in terms of the energy that he plays with. And he just basically took DK out of the game. Russell wanted to go to him on several different occasions, but, just no space there to put the ball to DK. And so, again, give Jalen a lot of credit for really kind of changing the way that game was played, but by the way he played DK.
But in that defense as well, I mean, you look at the Rams earlier on in the season and coming into the year, Eric, they were a potential dark horse, I thought, to be one of those teams that ended up sliding more into the top 10 into the draft instead of being a team that's into divisional round weekend in the playoffs. But you look at that defense, they have a star, maybe a top 3 player at the 2 most important positions, pass rusher and cornerback. I know they've given up so much draft capital, but with the top level talent they have, there's a reason why they are where they are right now at 6-3 in a battle for that NFC West, don't you think?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, if you have 2 of the best defensive players in the league, your defense should be pretty good. But you also have to give new defensive coordinator Brandon Staley a lot of credit for taking what those guys are good at and accentuating it,
100%,
and then putting pieces around them so that defense has played at the level that it's played at. This is the defensive team now. When you watch them, obviously McVay has done a lot in terms of the offense the last couple of years, but I feel like the way that this defense plays, it kind of changed the way that McVay plays offense. He kind of plays more of a I don't want to say game manager, but definitely a ball control style offense because the defense is so good.
And that's the part of it. You just don't go out there and wreck the game. And that is a skill, man. I know, Eric, it sounds weird, but we see so many quarterbacks around this league go and wreck the game. If you can keep the team in the game and not make the big mistake, there's something to be said for that when your team and everybody around you is that good.
No doubt. And there's been a lot of talk about let Russ cook. But when Russ first got into the league, he had a defense like the Rams have right now. And so just don't turn the ball over, have some balance on offense, run the football. And then late in the game, let Russ do his thing in terms of whether, you're behind or ahead. Now go out there and start to take some risks and make some plays. And I think Jared Goff is kind of learning that. You saw it a couple weeks ago against Miami. He had 4 turnovers in the first half. I basically gave the game to the Dolphins.
Yep.
Playing against the Seahawks, he understands how good this defense is.
just get some points on the scoreboard and don't give them any turnovers. And it's going to be hard for teams to score against that defense. And basically, they were able to do that. They got to 23 points, and it was enough.
And that offensive line is big and physical, and the loss of Whitworth for as extended period of time as he will be out, just how much of a loss is that going to be in that run game where they cycle in all three of those backs?
No, I think that's huge. And Whitworth has been their best offensive lineman. He's a co-captain on that team. They like running to that side in terms of their outside zone scheme. Even at 38 years old, he's able to get to the second level and do a nice job of stealing so they can get outside. So it is going to hurt them. Joe Noteboom, they kind of drafted him with the mindset that he might be the long-term answer at left tackle. Once Whitworth moves on, now they're going to find out, in the second half of the season, is he a guy that could potentially take over at left tackle? He was a guy supposed to be the starting left guard, but he ended up suffering a calf injury, and then David Edwards moved in there and really just played too good to give up the spot. So there'll be a lot of spotlight on Joe Noteboom and how he plays over the next handful of weeks.
Eric Williams from Sports Illustrated covers the Rams, hanging out with us on Sports Map all night. Quote, buy and save on home insurance with Progressive's new Home Quote Explorer, only at Progressive.com. So you look at the 6 wins that the Rams have right now, 4 of which against the NFC East, which looks very different at this point. However, we're going to learn a lot about what this team has in store. I mean, coming up next Monday night when they go and take on Tampa Bay down in Florida. Yeah. But whatever that Niners team looks like, the Cardinals 2 times, Seattle again, what's the sentiment from your readers as to what that 6-3 record feels like out in Los Angeles?
I think it feels a lot better now that they're able to beat a team like Seattle. Probably their best win this year. You're right. Obviously they beat up on the NFC East. They go to Buffalo and really a game. They don't have that PI call. They're able to get a win there in Buffalo, which I think would have been a little bit better in terms of their resume right now. But I also think the schedule is the schedule. I mean, you can't, dictate who you're going to play week to week. It's already made, and you just have to go out there and get wins each week. And so they've been able to do that for the most part. Get to 6-3. You said it. They still got San Francisco. They got to play Arizona twice. They got to go up to Seattle and play up there. It's always a tough place to play, even though they don't have any fans up there. I still think they can probably get to 10 or 11 wins. I don't know if that wins the division because, the division is so competitive, but I definitely think that would put them in the playoffs. And then, anything can happen once you get there. So I think fans overall, when they look at the 6-3 record, I think they probably think that's about right for this team and where they're at right now.
Eric_D_Williams on Twitter. Eric Williams from Sports Illustrated talking Rams football with us here on Sports Map all night. So you mentioned you covered the Seattle Seahawks for a while. What have you noticed as to how they're playing ball over there? The defense is absolutely atrocious. I mean, giving up almost 450 yards a game is outrageous. However, they still have a couple of pieces. They trade the 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams. What's your feeling after just watching Seattle as to what their legitimacy is to contend for this NFC conference at the end of the day and represent Super Bowl 55?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, give Pete credit. I mean, Pete's a defensive-minded coach, and
True.
He said it. The defense is probably one of the worst in the league right now, but they're still 6-3, so he's still adapting to the talent that he has in the roster and still, making them competitive for the most part, week in and week out. Obviously they're playing more from an offensive mindset and really putting the onus on Russell to go out and win games for them. It was successful early on, but now because of all the injuries, I think it's been too much, and I feel like Russell's kind of pressing. Their issue is defense. I think the first couple years of the Legion of Boom, they got so much attention, but really the Legion of Boom became the Legion of Boom because they were able to get pressure with 4, and there were a lot of unheralded guys on the defensive line that really made it easier for those guys in the back end to make plays. Guys like Chris Clemens early on was a double-digit sack guy the first couple years, and then they got Michael Bennett. They signed Cliff Averill. They drafted Bruce Irvin. So they always had 2 edge guys that could bring pressure, and then they had guys that Brandon Mebane that could push the pocket. So their ability to create pass rush with just 4 guys and play a mixture of different type coverages behind that was one of the reasons that they were able to kind of build that legendary defense when they had it going. And so they have to get more talent on that side of the football for them to be able to get back to that. If you've watched them, I mean, they can't generate any pressure with 4.
No.
They got to bring, guys from the back end like Bobby Wagner and Adams in order to create pressure. So, it leaves you naked in the back end secondary, and that's why you're getting a bunch of big plays.
Let's get back to this Rams team, especially in that backfield, Eric. The three-headed monster of Henderson, Brown, and Akers. You imagine where they take Akers out of Florida State. They want him to be the long-term solution, but I'm here in Wisconsin, so I'm following Matt LaFleur, who's from the McVay tree, from that Shanahan system. There's no such thing as a feature guy in this mold. Is it going to be mostly from what you witnessed a 3-headed race for the foreseeable future, or do you think anybody can count on one of those guys to kind of pull away?
Nah, it truly is the hot hand and who they feel like gives them the most juice. It's not only game in and game out; it's series.
Yeah,
they have guys that they want to play a particular series. They really trust Malcolm Brown, so in important downs, 3rd and 5, where pass pro is critical, he's going to be in there because he knows that offense inside and out, and they trust that he's going to make the right read in terms of picking up splits. So he's going to play, 20, 25 snaps. They like him in the red zone too because he's a pretty powerful runner. They like to give him on those goal-to-goal situations. I think Cam has the most juice. That's why he took him in the 2nd round, just his ability to be elusive, to create explosive plays. But he also is the least experienced in that offense, and so that's why he's not getting the number of touches that you would expect a guy of his talent to get. And then Darrell Henderson just makes plays. I mean, you put him in there, and he creates explosive plays. He's a very strong runner in between the tackles. He has some juice at the 2nd level, and he can also catch the ball in the backfield. So if anybody was going to jump out of those 3, I think it would be Darrell, and I think Darrell has the most yards out of those 3. But then you also have to consider injuries. Darrell's not a big guy, so he's not a guy that's going to tote it a couple hundred times a season. You do want to mix a number of different guys in there just to kind of protect them and keep those guys fresh and healthy. So, yeah, I think it's a true running back by committee. If you're a fantasy guy, I don't know, maybe go find somebody else be a little more reliable in terms of what they're going to get week to week. Because I don't know. I literally can't tell you who's going to be the guy week to week.
So next week, Monday Night Football, Eric Williams from Sports Illustrated. Appreciate you hanging out with us. It's Buccaneers against Rams. How does this secondary, you can only imagine Jalen Ramsey locks up on Mike Evans. How do they beat that Buccaneers team next week?
Well, Brady's seen everything, so I don't think you're going to be able to come up with a new scheme that he's not going to be able to figure out. So I think it's about just keeping everything in front and tackling guys and being able to get off the field. Maybe if you can, get some pressure in Brady's face up the middle, see if he can get the ball to you a little bit. But I do think that's just, what they've done throughout the year. Keep guys in front of you and don't give up explosive plays and try to get the ball back to your offense. I think Brady's going to score some points just because, how surgical he is in terms of how he runs an offense. And they have a bunch of playmakers, at receiver and at running back. So they're going to get their points. I think it's going to be a point for the offense to show up. When they get in the red zone, they can't settle for field goals. They're going to need to get touchdowns because I do think this is going to be a game that's played in the high 20s to 30s.
Eric Williams from Sports Illustrated, Eric_D_Williams, where you find him on Twitter. Appreciate your time tonight, man. Great talk. We'll talk soon, all right?
Sure, no problem. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you hopping on. That's Eric Williams on the Progressive Guest Hotline, talking Rams with us from Sports Illustrated. That's going to be a great one next Monday night. A lot better, hopefully, than whatever we just watched with the Bears and Vikings. He joins us on the Progressive Guest Hotline. As said, Progressive is proud to honor our veterans by donating cars to move their lives forward, especially in times of need. Learn more about their Keys to Progress program and plans for 2020 at keystoprogress.com. I may have reacted a little bit too excited too quickly. More details are coming out about Drew Holiday to the Milwaukee Bucks, and I don't know about it. We're up next on Sports Map All Night.
Wake up call.
Here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, broadcasting to you live along with my guy Andrew Carlson back in Houston, Texas. Our two favorite NBA teams just making moves. The two trades being announced, well, not officially announced, within the last few minutes. In this hour of the program, brought to you by Rocket Mortgage. When you need certainty in the home buying process with a loan that fits your life, Rocket can. Drew Holiday is now going to be a Milwaukee Buck in exchange for All-NBA first-team defender Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, 3 first-round picks, 2 pick swaps, and Drew Holiday has 1 year remaining on his contract. Huh. Yeah, I'm going to need an extra couple of minutes. We got to take a quick time out. We're back after this. Sports Map All Night. Schmidt, my guy Andrew Carlson alongside. We're going to talk about something good coming up in about 30 minutes from right now, where Andrew Carlson and I were just like ATMs, man, just handing you cash. It's kind of what we do. Great investments. Recap the 3 plays that pay coming up here at the bottom of the hour, a little bit past 40 past the hour. Our guy Coos is going to stop by in about 20 minutes. Wrap up week number 10 in the National Football League the only way Robbie Coos can. Monday Night Football was interesting. 19-13 Vikings win. Cordero Patterson went 108 yards. I'm stalling, Andrew, if you didn't know, if you couldn't tell. The 2 biggest trades coming up in the NBA. Chris Paul was traded this morning. How about that? Congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have a bunch of draft picks. I want to say they have 17 first-round picks in the next 6 years. That is straight up the complete opposite of what the Milwaukee Bucks have. Now, after they have now traded Eric Bledsoe along with your boy, George Hill, 3 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps to the New Orleans Pelicans in exchange for Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday in his career is a one-time All-Star, has been a all-defensive player twice. He has averaged in his career, looking here, 20 points one time. He has averaged more than a steal and a half pretty consistently. Good defensive player. Shoots the 3 right around 37, 38% of the time. For 3 first-round picks, 2 players, and 2 pick swaps. Wow. So now Mark Stein is saying there is chatter around the league that Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to sign the Supermax extension with the Milwaukee Bucks. Yeah, I would hope so. Goodness gracious. Robert Covington's also headed to the Portland Trailblazers, by the way. Let's talk about something better. New Orleans Saints, they're good. Sports Map All Night's back after this. albeit a different San Francisco 49er team, right? They don't have Nick Bosa. We all know that. He's been out since week 2. Same with Solomon Thomas. However, they're still playing one of the harder hitting defenses in the league. And Drew Brees walked into that game reportedly with 2 broken ribs. He's now has 3 fractured ribs on his left side, 2 more on his right side. This all according to Ed Warner of ESPN. The 2 broken ribs on his right side occurred in the first half of the Saints' victory over the San Francisco 49ers. The other 3 are expected to have happened last week. So let's all give Drew Brees a round of applause. That cat is tough as nails. Walking out there with even a bruised rib. All right? Don't miss a week. And you're playing quarterback. You're getting lit up whenever you can. Whenever somebody can get a good shot on you, they're going to take it, and they're not going to pull any punch. The big boy from San Francisco pulled no punch yesterday, landing on top of Drew Brees. Now, Drew Brees is going to be out for quite some time. However, the most optimistic thought on a return would be like 2 to 3 weeks for Drew Brees. Not only does he have 5 fractures in his rib cage, man also suffered a collapsed lung. After the evaluation, doctors feared that he had punctured his lung, and that's what caused Drew Brees the difficulty breathing. And that's when he walked up to Sean Payton and said, "Hey, coach, I don't think I can do it." This was Drew Brees after the game explaining why he just could not go back into the game. And for all you young kids out there loving the game of football, and when a coach says, if you can't give it your all, let me know, this is what a team leader does.
I was not going to be able to be effective. It had nothing to do with pain. It was simply just what my body was going to be able to do or not be able to do.
This man had 5 fractures in his rib cage. 5! And said, it wasn't about the pain. Okay, listen, I don't know if he's lying or not. That's damn impressive. It's impressive to me that he walked up and talked to the media after. So any questions about what Drew Brees' durability and toughness level is have all gone completely out the window. Collapsed lung and broken ribs for one of the greatest of all time in Drew Brees. Now, he'll be down for the next couple of weeks. It doesn't appear, however, with that timetable from Dan Graziano, that Drew Brees might even go on IR. With that timetable and the thought that he could be back in 2 to 3 weeks, well, the IR designation, you got to be out for 3 weeks at least. So there's a lot that's going to go into this in the decision if indeed Brees goes on IR, how you proceed if you're the 7-2 New Orleans Saints. But as I continue to just chew on this, I'm just absolutely dumbfounded as to how Drew Brees was able to even manage going out and playing with 3 fractured ribs on his left side going into the game. He takes the hit, it gets worse, collapses a lung. He could possibly be out 3 weeks to more. And then in walks Mr. Eating a W, Jameis Winston. And wasn't bad, but by no means was good yesterday. The Teddy Bridgewater prototype, they tried to recreate with Jameis Winston. And I think we all kind of forget Teddy Bridgewater had 2 years in New Orleans. It wasn't just one hit it and quit it and he was out, hit 5 games, get the W's, and then he's out. He was there for a year, so he was kind of able to settle down, settle into that system. He knew it like the back of his hand. He knew exactly what they wanted him to do, how the offense had to proceed. And Teddy Bridgewater is much more of a Drew Brees style passer than one Jameis Winston. Jameis wants to get the football down the field. His biggest strength is throwing the ball vertically, pushing the ball down the field. He was with Bruce Arians, who may have been like oil and water, just going back and forth at each other. Because, I mean, Your boy Bruce Arians down there in Tampa is no risk it for the biscuit. He says go and sling it, right? Sean Payton is much more methodical. We're going to work the short game. We're going to get Michael Thomas 1,500 catches, right? Alvin Kamara is going to catch the ball 7 times out of the backfield. There's not a whole lot of opportunities to really push the ball vertically down the field, which may play more into what Jameis does. However long Drew will be out, or however long these Saints can afford Drew Brees to be out, it's strange to think about it this way, but Brees came into this with obviously the ribcage injury, also was suffering a little bit of a hand issue, I want to say the reports were. He was dealing with a little bit of discomfort in his arm. He's obviously an ager. He's battled through. It was a shoulder injury that has limited his practice time in the last couple of weeks. There were those reports that Drew Brees is working with everybody off the field. He's working with the folks on the sidelines. Okay. Now maybe if he goes on IR, while the injury is devastating, don't get me wrong. If Jameis comes in for 3 to 4 weeks, or say it's Taysom Hill, because he gave him, $15 million to run the Wildcat? He says he's a quarterback. He wants to be a quarterback, wants to show everybody he can be a quarterback. If that's the style and that's the spot he goes to, I would kind of believe he leans more towards a Taysom Hill. But when Jameis came in and took this backup role in New Orleans, the prevailing belief and what was sold reportedly to Jameis was once Drew moves on, you'll have the chance to compete for the spot, compete for the job. At this point in time, the way New Orleans was moving, kind of sputtering a little bit, their offense wasn't great in that first half. Is it weird to say this might be the best thing for Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints? Injury's devastating, don't get me wrong. But I look back to a couple of years ago. Different injury, different spot, not an internal organ that was being injured. But remember a couple of years ago, Drew Brees in a game against the LA Rams, who we just talked to Eric Williams, great conversation. Go check it out on the podcast after the show. Covering the LA Rams, Drew Brees in one of the first games of the year tears a ligament in his throwing hand, hitting his helmet on top of Aaron Donald's helmet. That was last year. Plays 11 games. The Drew Brees we saw in the second half of the season was as well rested, as vertically throwing the football, as competent as I'd seen him in quite some time. Drew Brees, 41 years old. Aging quarterbacks we've seen, and we talked a lot about, is his arm strength still there? Does he have as much accuracy? Does he have as much in his legs as he has in years past? A couple of weeks might not be the worst thing for Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. Say he's out 4 weeks. You can even push it maybe to 5. Saints have the lead in the division. They have the tiebreaker over Tampa Bay. They got a 1-game lead. And they have the Falcons, Broncos, Falcons, and Eagles coming up here in the next 4 weeks. Jameis or Taysom Hill should be able to win you at least, bare minimum, 2 of those games. Right? You got to think you can beat the Falcons once, and whatever Drew Lock and the Denver Broncos out in Denver can do to you, their defense is much different than it's been in years past. Or you just beat the Falcons twice. You lose to the Eagles on the road. You lose to the Broncos on the road. Oh, well. 3 of those games are on the road in concurrent order. At Denver, at Atlanta, at Philadelphia. You win at least 2 of those, you're sitting at 9-4. maybe looking at a wild card spot, but still in a great position to go to the playoffs. And then it's Breeze back for Chiefs, Vikings, and Panthers. I don't know. He's going to heal. It's going to take a little bit of time. But once Drew Brees comes back and everything can get settled, Michael Thomas can be happy in his role, Emmanuel Sanders gets into the offense, Alvin Kamara keeps doing his thing, maybe this is not the death sentence to the New Orleans Saints season that some people might think. And Jameis could make himself a lot of money. All right, Robbie Coos going to break down and wrap up week number 10 the only way Coos can. Keep it right here at Sports Map All Night. Hanging out with you. My guy Coos is in the building. He's going to wrap up week number 10 in the National Football League here in just a second. I don't know if we've been pretty focused on the Drew Holiday trade to the Milwaukee Bucks that is reportedly coming down here, which is just surprising to me, to say the absolute least. There's also another name that could be coming as well. We'll get into that. We'll continue to recap them, and we're going to give you a look at the ATM known as my guy Andrew Carlson, as he's just straight out dishing out winners to you in the 3 plays that pay segment. That comes up in 10 minutes. But right now, it's Robbie Coos. Coos wrapping up week number 10. Coos, take it away.
We have made it through 10 weeks of the NFL season. Things are heating up.
You're clear.
Park Studios. Here's Bill Schmidt.
Thanks for hanging out. It's Sports Map all night, guys. The Athletic, which is a subscription that you have to have right now. The Athletic delivers every sports story that matters to you. The Athletic has full-time local writers dedicated to your teams, providing breaking news, in-depth analysis, and exclusive stories you can't find anywhere else. Plus national names like Robert Mays, Stuart Mandel, Jake Seeley, David Aldridge, who's all over the NBA trades right now, Ken Rosenthal, Lindsey Jones provide unrivaled league-wide perspective and insight, all personalized and, best part, ad-free. Whether you're looking for a fantasy football edge or the long-term outlook for your NBA team, what if your team doesn't have one? The Athletic has the sports coverage you need. Subscribe today for $1 a week at theathletic.com/radio week. Once again, that's theathletic.com/radio week. So before we get into the three plays that pay, more and more is continuing to come out here in terms of the NBA trades being made. Drew Holiday is going to be a Milwaukee Buck in exchange for 3 first-round picks, along with Eric Bledsoe, a first-team All-NBA defender this past season, as well as George Hill, who's played in a couple of different NBA finals. He's been around the league for quite some time. Drew Holiday goes to the Bucks. Robert Covington is going to go from the Houston Rockets to the Portland Trailblazers in exchange for the 16th pick, along with Trevor Ariza. Deal that I think is going to get slept on and kind of lost in the craziness that is that Drew Holiday trade package. Also, we didn't really mention it because we've gotten so swept up in what just happened here. Chris Paul was traded earlier today from the Oklahoma City Thunder over to the Phoenix Suns, which I think is a great move for the Suns in one sense. Go and get somebody that Devin Booker can trust, and go get somebody that can also score as well as get DeAndre Ayton the ball on the inside, because that dude was the number 1 overall pick 2 years ago, is an absolute beast. Along with Devin Booker, maybe a top 5 shooter in the NBA. Reports earlier today, James Harden also wants to be traded out of Houston, along with his boy, Russell Westbrook. He wants to be gone. James Harden has said, "Send me to Brooklyn, sir." No sleep till Brooklyn is what James Harden is believing, and he thinks that he's going to go team up with his boys Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. Last time KD and James Harden were on the same team, worked out pretty well, didn't it? They came so close to winning an NBA championship. They got stopped by something called LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Crazy that group would end up taking it out. But the trade compensation was huge as well. 2022 first-round pick, couple of pick swaps, as well as Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, Ty Jerome, and something called Jalen Lacroix. Is that how I pronounce that name? Is that correct, Andrew? You're the LeCue. Okay, that sounds a lot better. Lacroix would sound more like a hockey player. So that is exactly how that deal goes down as well. All right, favorite time of the week. I love giving the winners, but Andrew, when there's this much green on the board and this much green getting handed back from the cashier in the 3 plays that pay, as we recap those 3 plays that pay, this is my favorite time of the week, and your boy is on fire. This man is 33, 26, and 1, and it started with a 3-0 week as I brag about my boy Andrew Carlson in the college game. Tell him how it happened, AC.
Yeah, we got to 500 for the first time on the college football slate. We've been
there we go.
Our way back up there after a rough first couple of weeks. Got to 15-15 after going 3-0 this week, and it started off with the Indiana Hoosiers -7.5 at Michigan State.
Easy money.
I thought it was a no-brainer. The Hoosiers are a significantly better team than Michigan State. Michigan State has already played their biggest game of the year. They're not that talented. They're not, even if they come out motivated for this game, which they won't. These home games with COVID, the difference between home and away just does not mean what it did before.
Totally.
Especially for these schools where they're not having seats full of fans, just like Michigan State's not. It just does not mean as much. And for these teams that are significantly less talented coming into these matchups, just like Michigan State is against Indiana, where they're outmatched talent-wise on the field, when that's the case and you don't have those 60, 70,000 cheering you on, cheering you to up your game, trying to drag you to victory, it's a lot harder to raise your level. And that's what we saw today, or saw that game. 24-0 for the Hoosiers. Easy money, easy win.
Easy.
Up next, I had Baylor at Texas Tech under 56. I mentioned on Friday, the Big 12 has not been playing like the Big 12 of the past. We have seen some defensive slugfests, and this was not quite a defensive slugfest, but it never really got close to the 56. It was 24-23, and I mean, look, I said that it wasn't going to come close to the number, and it really didn't. There was a slight sweat towards the end where maybe we could have potentially gotten an overtime situation, but thankfully we avoided that, able to cash the under 56 with ease. And last but not least, I stayed in the Big 12. I had West Virginia -3 versus TCU, and it's just another situation where I saw a team that was significantly better than their counterparts on the other side. They're playing at home, and you're only laying 3 points. Are you kidding me? West Virginia versus TCU. TCU has done nothing of note so far this season except beat an Oklahoma team that, frankly, is not very good. And West Virginia took care of business. They won 24-6. Wasn't ever really in doubt, and led us to 3-0 on the college slate.
And I'm proud of you for not going with your Houston Cougars, who, by the way, cashed in big time this weekend. But what would you say to me if I told you the story around the Big Ten is, well, now you got past, if you're the Wisconsin Badgers, you got past the cupcake in the schedule of Michigan. Now on to the tough games of Indiana and Northwestern.
Say that's 2020 in a nutshell, is it not?
Dude, that Indiana team is good, though. Penix Jr. can ball. Tom Allen, I just love the way he coaches. He is all heart all the time, all gas, no break. They are playing so hard and so quick on the offensive side of the ball, man. They shut out that Michigan State team in East Lansing. And you're right. The home field advantage, which is none at this point in time in college football, is definitely changing the landscape there. You also said not very good on Oklahoma. When was the last time we were able to say that about Oklahoma? I mean, they are just so dominant. All right. Also, over here on this side, went 3-0 in the college game. We're both sitting at 15 up, 15 down on the college football slate. Now, the NFL is where Andrew Carlson's literally been like handing out money, but we'll get to that in just 1 second. Marshall, the Thundering Herd, 50 years ago to the day, Saturday was, when the Thundering Herd football team lost 37 members of its team, along with boosters and coaches, in the single most devastating, tragic, and the highest loss of life, a sports tragedy we've seen in this country, when their plane went down in the hills of West Virginia. Marshall, 16th team in the country, was taking on Middle Tennessee State. They were giving 23.5. They ended up winning by 28. It was an incredible moment. They're wearing all blacks in honor. It was an incredible moment there at Marshall, and I was glad that we were able to honor the Thundering Herd by including them in the 3 plays that pay. And thank you for them for cashing in, as you only knew that they would against Middle Tennessee State. What about our guy John Michaels and his Miami Hurricanes? This was a good game to watch. 25-24. Canes were getting 2.5. And when I made the pick on Friday night, I knew Miami was in a little bit of hot water with their COVID-19 cases. Little did I know it was as impactful as it was. They almost didn't play that game on Saturday. When they woke up, they didn't know if they were going to be able to play the game. Now, promptly, the Miami football team has been shut down. However, they get a come-from-behind win in Blacksburg, beat Justin Fuente and the Virginia Tech Hokies. And Fuente is one of those guys that is so much on the hot seat. You got to imagine. You take over for a legend, usually it doesn't happen. Doesn't work very well. Frank Beamer is a god in Blacksburg, Virginia. That is a difficult one. Our guy Josh Parcell might have to stop by and tell us exactly what's going on with his Virginia Tech Hokies at some point. But the Miami Hurricanes cash it in. Your guy De'Ara King is a stud. My only issue with what Manny Diaz and his crew did during that game, I think they should have won the game by double digits. But Andrew, usually in football, it's good to get the ball to your best playmakers, right? Your best athletes. Miami decided to fake a field goal and flip it to the kicker and run on a 4th and 5 when you have one of the best dual threat guys in the league, De'Ara King, in the backfield. That one didn't make any sense. And then on a 2-point conversion play, I love when my fat guys get the ball, right? As a former offensive lineman, Fat guy love. Give it to me. They throw a 2-point conversion screen pass to the left tackle. Doesn't matter. They end up cashing anyway. And the under, Arizona against USC. Arizona's not very good. Number was set at 68. Ends up at 64. Almost got a backdoor cover. Instead, the Trojans win. We cashed on the under. Show was a perfect 6-0 in the college game. And in the NFL, Andrew Carlson just keeps on winning.
2-1 this week, and that was actually a drop off from last week where we were 3-0. But man, it just keeps on coming, and I'm hoping the luck doesn't run out anytime soon, Bill, because we started off Raiders -3.5 versus the Broncos. This was another one of those games where I looked at it and I was just like, man, this line seems there must be something that I'm not seeing, because I've got the Raiders playing at the Death Star out in Las Vegas, and the first year in the new stadium, I don't care if there are fans there or not. There's something different. There's going to be a different level of motivation stepping onto that field for the Raiders. And you're telling me that they're only 3.5-point favorites against the Broncos team that just really isn't all that good? And so look, they ran all over the Denver Broncos. Huge day for Josh Jacobs. The MVP case for my guy Derek Carr and his number one fan, Raider Cody. Look, it may not be that there's probably no MVP case, but the Raiders look damn good. 37-12. That 3.5-point line was never in doubt. Up next, we had the Chargers at Dolphins over 48.5. We were going against each other on this one, Bill, and I'm sorry to say, well, I'm not really sorry to say. I was the one who came out on top there. I can't lie to you, Bill. I'm not sorry. But
that was my fault.
Look, I warned you.
You did. You tried to be a good friend. I get it.
But the Chargers, Justin Herbert managed to move the ball decently well, but weren't able to come up with enough points to get the victory. But the 21 they got was enough to get us the over, and I'm sure we're going to get into this Dolphins team more as the week goes on, but man, they have a solid bunch over there. And the last one, which did not cash for me, was Ravens -7 at the Patriots. And I don't really, just a bad play on my part. The Ravens were never in that game, and the torrential rainstorm didn't help.
Yeah, the rain didn't help. I didn't think that was as crazy as you may have thought. I actually really liked the Ravens in that game as well. The Chargers-Dolphins game, it was going to cash on the under until it didn't, because Keenan Allen catches a touchdown with, I want to say, like 1 minute and 11 seconds left on the clock, right? Not only did that beat the under, also knocked me out of one of my fantasy football playoffs, because Keenan Allen had to catch a touchdown. I ended up losing by 5. So thanks a lot, Keenan Allen. You're one of my favorite players to watch in the league, and you had to hose us there. But congratulations to you on catching the touchdown. I've been beating the drum on the Carolina Panthers as a covering machine. They got run through in the second half of that game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I didn't see Tampa Bay dropping 46. I really didn't. And Teddy Bridgewater goes down. Get absolutely steamrolled. You give up a 98-yard touchdown, you're not going to cover many games. Packers and Jags under on the 49. Looked bleak there at one point because Keelan Cole decided to just house everything. Cat takes a punt 81 yards away and leaves the punter's jock strap in the middle of Lambeau Field. I think it was actually right around the 23-yard line. So I was thinking that one was going to get a little bit dicey, but luckily the Packers decided to sleepwalk through most of the game. Still got the win. We cash in on the under on a 24-20 game. And you mentioned it. We already litigated it. I had the under in the Miami-LA game. And you're right. We are going to talk about this Miami Dolphins team a lot more throughout the week, Andrew, because they are fun, dude. And they play physical defense. Tua, I said it, man. 1 year ago to the day, he gets carted off in Starkville to he's now 3-0 as the starter of the Miami Dolphins. And he gets the win. He also had a great play where he went down and tracked down a cat who was going about 90 yards on a fumble return for a touchdown. Miami blocks a punt in that game. They are legit. And Brian Flores making his candidacy for sure to be the coach of the year in the National Football League. All right, we're going to wrap things up next, give you the final tally on what the NBA trade deadline looks like. We are within 2 days from the NBA draft. We'll give you a look at that as well. Come on back. It's Sports Map All Night.